Hello, I am here from Impressing Minds. My name is Kristen Adkins, and today I'm here to tell you a little bit about the training that you'll receive and also the home study process and some of the requirements that you would have when you sign up. So the process would be that you would sign up at your local agency to foster a fostering agency. We have several around our area. So you would choose your agency. Once you choose your agency, they will get you signed up for classes. They will tell you, when the first class or the orientation will be, and then you show up to that and then take the classes. After your training is done, then and you passed your training, you would go on then to do the home study. And the home study is a huge process also. It entails a lot of physical work around the home. It entails medical, physical from your physician. You have your own physical that you would do. And also it entails a lot of paperwork, a lot of questionnaires and surveys and things like that. So I've looked through some resources to find different states and the requirements. I would go through some of these so you can see where there are differences and similarities and what I see consistently. So I picked 3 states. One is my own state, and then there are 2 other states. So the first one gives a blanket statement about who can be a foster parent. They must be nurturing, responsible, patient, stable, flexible, mature, healthy adults. Good luck with that. Capable of meeting the individual and specific needs of children referred for placement services. They have to be 21 and no older than 65, unless a waiver is granted. So in some cases, grandparents can be the foster parent if they deem that you're very healthy. You have to, one of the first things, who may apply. You must provide sufficient income and financial resources because you have to meet their financial obligations. The children's financial obligations, you have to meet the standards of, in our case, it's the Department of Health and Human Services requirements. The training requirements are, you'll have specialized training and orientation, and then you'll also have 9, in our state, we have 9 classes. Each of those are 3 hours, and they're specific for foster parents. Even though you're a parent, or maybe you have an elementary education degree, or you have, a social work degree or something, these classes are very useful because they will teach you and train you how to deal specifically with foster children and some of the things that are unique to those situations, because normal children that you've raised, probably haven't gone through some of the things that the foster children have gone through. So you need specialized training in that, specific training. And then you have to do that every year. You have to keep up your certification as a foster parent. So you would have an orientation. They would go over things like discipline procedures, behavior management, crisis de-escalation, and intervention. Most of the 3 states that I looked at all require CPR and first aid also. And then each one also required annual training every year after that, between 12 and 18 hours every year. So that would mean like you would go to a class or 2 out of the year for people who are already certified in foster care. So it's some advanced training. We did our regular training, and an advanced class that we took, my husband and I took, was communication. So it focused on like communication skills, how to communicate with a foster child, how to communicate perhaps with the focus on, just different situations that you need to communicate, and you need to communicate clearly. All right, the training and the home study is all about the physical aspect of the home, well, mostly. It also talks about your vehicle needs to be in the safe condition, safe running condition, in compliance with state law. I would also say, it doesn't mention specifically, but it does say they must use safety belts and when transporting children, they must have their own car seats. Like, you can't rely on the car seats that you used 10 years ago for your children. You need to have up-to-date car seats, and that's something that you would need to buy later on. So they aren't going to look to see if you have car seats already. Once you get your placement, then that's when you would say, I'm going to go get a car seat specific for that child. So you'd have to do that at that moment. Each child, for sleeping arrangements, each child cannot have a cot or a rollaway bed. And I talked in other video about a trundle bed. You cannot have a trundle bed or rollaway bed. There cannot be any more than 4 children in a bedroom. They cannot sleep with an adult or a child of the opposite sex in the first state here. Another thing that all 3 states had in common was the use of a telephone. So even if you don't have a landline, using a cell phone. If you have a cell phone, your husband has a cell phone, sure, maybe one of your children have a cell phone, that would suffice, but you all have to have access to a phone of some sort. Another issue that all of them wanted to deter was also carbon monoxide detectors have to be present in all 3 of the states that I looked at. The location of the 3 were different. So location of the carbon monoxide detector in one was in the basement or on the level that the children are residing. The fire extinguisher always says in the kitchen. So, and then the first state that I'm looking at, which is my own state, says a working flashlight that's easily accessible in emergency lighting situations. So I'm going to do a whole separate post on the actual interview. But before the interview happens, you also have to have references from people who know you, know your parenting style. So you would get that started. I got that started as soon as I got the paperwork, because while you're doing the things in your house, you're buying a fire extinguisher, you're doing carbon monoxide detector, all those things, you can get those references to people. They have plenty of time. I would really give them a time limit to fill those out and get those back to you, so that when you're done with your home study, the references are done and you are ready to go. So the first state you have to have 4 references. Then the medical forms that need filled out from your physician. You must be in good health, in general good health, free of communicable diseases. You have to have a tuberculin skin assessment or risk assessment. So you'll have to have that done when you go. Prior to approval, all adult house members shall complete a statement of clinical record form, a statement of child abuse or neglect history form, and a signed release authorizing the department to verify the information. So basically a criminal background check. We had to have our fingerprints done. All right, and if you are doing a kinship, so maybe you're not interested in foster care, but you are doing kinship placement, some of the requirements are, the bar is not so high. The bar is a lot lower because you're already familiar with the child. They can go from the residence they were in into a familiar residence immediately, and they want to keep that child with family members, so their standards aren't going to be as high. They have a special request that they fill out for just a kinship study. It's not really a complete home study. There are some general safety and well-being concerns that'll be filled out, but it's not as high of a standard, high of a bar there to reach. So, for example, they have to have 2 non-relative references. And the second state says that the foster parent needs to be responsible, mature, who's fit and qualified. They exercise sound judgment and display the capacity to successfully nurture foster children. They do not abuse alcohol or drugs. They do not have a criminal conviction, pending criminal charge, or finding by the government body of a civil or criminal violation statute, regulation, or ordinance that's substantially related to the care of children. So basically, you can't have anything, legally in the way of you taking care of children. Anything. They have to be free of physical or mental conditions which would eliminate or reduce your ability to care for children, and they have to have a health and safety checkup. They must also, the second state says, they must have a stable income. The next interesting thing about the second state says they must have vehicle liability insurance. They must have homeowners and renters insurance, or renters insurance, whichever is applicable. And they must be reasonable and prudent when making decisions concerning their foster children. Their training standards were a little lower. They only had to have 6 hours pre-placement training. So again, it would just depend on what state you're in. It depends on what state you're in. The second state gave standards for the size of the house that you would have to have. So a minimum of 200 square feet of living area for each household member, and at least one complete bathroom for every 8 household members. And you're thinking, 8 household members, good grief, 1 bathroom. Well, yeah, you get to 8 if you have a good house, if you're a good family, if you have a good, if you're a good foster family, you will get to 8 pretty soon if you hint that you're open for more. Each foster child must have a separate bed and or a separate crib for an infant. Also, they must have 40 square feet per child in the bedroom. So they're very, very specific. Now, I wouldn't say that they would get out some kind of ruler or one of those wheelie things that measure, but they're going to make sure that the space is appropriate for the children. They also have, at over 6 years old, they're not allowed to share a bedroom. They must have an employment history. All right, the last state, it doesn't say how many hours. It says prescribed number of hours of orientation and training. And this training they listed was more organizational policies and responsibilities for reporting child abuse and neglect, which I think is odd because you're the one getting the child from the abuse and neglect, which unless they're in daycare, you wouldn't need to report abuse and neglect unless you were the one doing it. I don't know why. You would also have training in personal and professional ethics and conduct, record-keeping requirements. I'm not sure what record-keeping requirements they mean because we only had to keep records, of like an inventory of clothing and their items. When they came to the house, we would fill out a form. How many shirts do they have? How many pants do they have? Skirts, socks, hats, gloves, belts, whatever. That's the only record keeping. Now that we were encouraged to do like a life book and document, phone calls and visits and all the fun stuff. Journaling basically is what you're doing about the child. They require record keeping, like I said, cultural competency, separation and loss inherent in out-of-home care, confidentiality requirements, risk and impact of substance abuse on the child population, suicide prevention, which will be very good training to have if you have older children, procedures for safe transportation of children, and behavior management, of course. They also require CPR and first aid. Another requirement that this last state, was also a first aid kit in addition to the smoke detectors, the fire extinguisher, the carbon monoxide detector. They also require a first aid kit. And they require 5 positive references, 3 non-relatives, and then 2 relatives, it says, to assess family relationships. So I think these are very interesting. And just to see that I pulled 3 different state requirements and how they're similar and how they're different. Our home study was a while back, so that's why I pulled some of these. Childwelfare.gov. So if you want to go in there and see your own state and what the requirements are for your own state, these are from 2018, so they may not even be exactly up to date, but this will give you a better idea of what the process is like, what to be prepared for, and how you can talk about things. And if this is really something you want to do, it's going to be a lot of time and effort put into the home study and the training. So like and subscribe for more informational videos. If you leave some comments down below, I will be more than happy to do videos that are informational, and they have, you know, some of my experiences blended together to give you a great video, I hope. If you have any, you know, constructive criticisms or anything, let me know. I just really want to provide you with information in a just conversational style. So like, subscribe, and comment, and share. Share this video with anybody you think may be interested in doing foster care, or maybe ready to do their home study. The next video I plan on doing is on the interview. So that will be very, very informational, very good. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching to the very end. Have a great day, and